It's a magic number. Yes, it is. It's a magic number. Because 2 times 3 is
6.
Yeah. And 3 times 6 is
18.
And the 18th letter in the alphabet is Yeah, baby. We got 3 R's we're gonna talk about today. We gotta learn to reduce, reuse, recycle. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Come on. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Well, if you're going to the market to buy some juice, you gotta bring your own bags and you learn to reduce your waste. We gotta learn to reduce. And if your brother or your sister's got some cool clothes, you could try them on before you buy some more of those. Reuse. We gotta learn to reuse. Yes, and if the first 2 R's don't work out, and if you gotta make some trash, well, don't throw it out. Recycle, yeah, baby. Recycle, come on. We gotta learn to reduce, reuse, recycle. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Yeah. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Because 3, it's a magic number. Yes, it is. It's a magic number. It's a magic number.
What a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday morning right here on Icon Radio. I'm your host, Wanjira Maganjo, and you definitely know every time you hear that song by Jack Johnson, you know that it is Sustainability Connect happening here live on YouTube and live on www.iconradio.co.ke. And I'm super glad that we are back after such a long, I feel like I haven't been here in like, what, a month or something? Oh, so much has been happening, but I'm super, super glad that I'm back. And today we are going to be decoding the G now. You know, we started this conversation with the ESG, just understanding the whole concept of ESG. And today we're going to be talking about the G in the ESG. And without further ado, we're going to take like 2 minutes break, and then we'll be right back with my guest, who is not very new. Actually, they're literally our in-house consultants because they are very well versed in this space of ESG, and who would we rather work with than, you know, experts in this area. And thank you so much, Njoki, for coming here for the 10th time.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so thank you so much. So once we come back, we'll be speaking on that and just getting to understand what is the role of G in the ESG. So karibuni sana to Sustainability Connect. Remember to chat with us, send us a WhatsApp message, and you can also talk to us on our YouTube, on our social media handles. That is iconradio.co.ke on all social media platforms. That is Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and you like. And also, we'll be posting all this information on all our LinkedIn platforms so that you can get to understand, you know, how we push these conversations on ESG, because this is something that we really, really need to talk about. So thank you so much for being part of this conversation, and karibuni sana. See you after the short break.
Today's the 4th of July. Another June has gone by. And when they light up our town, I just think what a waste of gunpowder and sky. I'm certain I am alone and harboring thoughts of our home. I ought to have gotten it gone. I ought to have gotten it. Oh, baby.
That is the 4th of July with Amy Mann happening here on Icon Radio. And thank you so much for being part of the conversation. And, we love Sustainability Connect every Wednesday, where we talk about everything, anything and everything concerning environment, social and governance, climate change, green jobs. And we love how these conversations have been, because there's been a lot of questions that even corporates need to understand before they implement some of these strategies, their sustainability strategies. So thank you so much for being part of this conversation. And today, like we're saying, we are decoding the G in ESG. And what we are looking at is to understand, before we even go into the G aspect, maybe Njoki, you can introduce yourself and tell us briefly what ESG is, so that even as we, dive into the G, we now know where it's coming from. And come closer to the microphone.
Okay. Thanks, Wanjira. Nice to see you again.
Yes.
Thank you for inviting me here. It's always a pleasure to discuss sustainability. My name is Njoki Kamau Mbugua. I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and also a practicing sustainability expert professional. Right now we are wondering what to call ourselves, whether we are professionals, whether we're expertise, but let's go with professionals for now. So what is ESG? ESG, first of all, stands for Environmental Social Governance. And these are specific aspects of the environment, of the social aspect, and of the governance aspect that companies are now being called upon to think about, discuss, implement, and develop clear strategies on how their businesses affect the environment, on how their businesses affect the social status of the community, and whether or not they have strong governance frameworks to ensure that businesses are looking, stable and sustainable. Yeah. So jumping into the G. So G stands for governance. And listen, I'm excited to discuss this because
the country right now is talking about poor governance.
Absolutely. And it's I'm glad that we're having this discussion, because it not only touches on businesses and corporates, but also touches on the country and where we are right now. So governance refers to policies, processes, mechanisms that are put in place by corporates to ensure that the people in positions of power or positions of control are being held accountable. Basically, that's what it means. It means clear processes and mechanisms that have to be in place so that the people who are running the show are transparent and are accountable enough to the various stakeholders. So that is what governance means.
Coming from that, why is it so important that governance has now taken prominence in terms of gauging a company's ability to run, or the company's ability to, employ? Why is governance such a key issue, even to investors, especially who are looking to invest in startups and SMEs?
The long short of it is because governance is the heartbeat of the company. With and why does that happen? It's because at the board level, which is where governance is mostly developed, if at the board level we have mechanisms that are not clear enough, then this trickles down to all the stakeholders, right? It trickles down to shareholders, to employees, to consumers overall. So governance is the backdrop against which companies survive or die, because the board members right there. So allow me to get just slightly technical.
Yeah.
Slightly technical.
In a layman's language.
Just slightly technical, allow me. In law, there are various theories that are attached to corporate governance. And these theories are so centrally placed into the relationship between the board and the various stakeholders. So, for instance, if I can pick one, there's an agency theory whereby the board members are agents of the various stakeholders, right? And so then with that, you can see the prominence of their positions, their leadership positions that holds. And so governance really and truly is the backdrop against which companies succeed or fail. Yeah.
So I love how you say it is actually the backbone of a company.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies seem to ignore that. And you find like, when you're talking about companies, are we talking about startups? Are we talking about SMEs? Are we talking about MSMEs? Does governance just, have its own category of like governance is only restricted to this particular kind of people, or does it cut across every what would you call it? Every sector and every company.
Yeah.
Whether it's limited, whatever.
That's an excellent question, because you see startups, rising up very fast and falling down as fast as they rose, right?
Yeah.
And the long short of it is governance, right? So governance is it's what's it called? A free size. It fits everyone, and it has to be there. It's the skin of the company. And so whether you are a startup, whether you're an SME, whether you are the big boys, governance is key. We saw Tuskys falling very drastically, very, very fantastically.
No, that was dramatically.
It was fantastically, dramatically.
Yeah.
And it's because of poor governance.
Yeah.
So governance is not unique to companies that already have been there. If you're a startup, governance should be one of the things that you start thinking about. How is your board structure? Are you diverse enough? Do you have frameworks and policies in place? These are things that need to be developed almost at the get-go when SMEs are starting up, or startups, and also SMEs as they continue to grow. And also the big boys. You can have a very excellent outfit, a very excellent business, but without proper frameworks, then you're exposing yourself to a lot of challenges with your various stakeholders.
I love the fact that you're narrowing it down to board members. And if you're maybe have 2 or 3 employees, governance is also a crucial aspect in it. But we're also looking at when you're looking to, because a lot of everyone's idea of a company is to grow, to scale up their business, to build up their business. And as they're scaling up, they need a whole team of experts who are supporting in terms of governance. And I just want to understand how crucial is diversity in and what components of diversity are we looking at when you're talking about the board construction, and what should you be looking out for so that you can feel like you've incorporated.
You have a good team.
Yeah, you have a good team.
And so, I don't remember who said this, but they said variety is the spice of life. And just like that, that's also applicable in diversity in the governance space. And so when you talk about diversity, we are tempted right now to solely base diversity on gender, right? But diversity at the board level includes everything. It includes your experience, your expertise, your knowledge of the specific sector, your race, your religion, your gender, all of it. It's crucial to have a board that is diverse because it brings in different perspectives. It brings in different understanding of whether it's a service or a product that you're issuing. So to have a board that's diverse is crucial, as you know, with that then you have an understanding of your product and your business differently. And of course you stand to gain from the pool of discussion that's happening. So you just don't have a one-sided conversation. You have a conversation that is a discussion that stems from different knowledge and skills from different people. Yes.
When you're talking about governance, I don't know if this is far-fetched or this is part of the conversation of governance in terms of consumer protection. Like, is that part of governance or is that something totally different?
You said consumer protection?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a
that's a
research
wide
paper by itself. That's a research paper.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I would answer this way. With and I'll marry that to the previous point. Having a diverse board makes you understand even your consumers differently. And so then with that, you're able to develop policies and frameworks that are specific to your consumers. Your mechanisms on reporting and audits to consumers then become a bit more clear, as all other aspects of governance. If you've developed a strategy on ESG and measuring your carbon footprint, you need a clear policy, an environmental policy that then makes your vision very tunnel, and so you're able to report clearly on this. And so when you talk about governance, it's an umbrella that trickles down to various facets of the company. So you can have an environmental policy, you can have a consumer policy, you can have a gender policy, and different policies that are specific to your business and your business needs. And so it essentially trickles down to everything, every facet of your business. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I love how you put it, because sometimes we tend to think when you're talking about governance, we're just talking about the leadership aspect of it, but it's a whole spectrum in terms of how effective your company runs based on who's on your team. Yeah. And when you're talking about, we can now move into ethical practices in ESG, and especially in governance, because I feel like ethics is such a huge topic.
Yeah.
And I feel like companies need to foster ethical behavior. And maybe you can give us examples of how transparent and what ethical behavior is within a company that is ESG compliant.
Oh, the proverbial ethics. And it can be, it should be an objective conversation, but sometimes it's also subjective. Different people have a different understanding.
One's man's meat, another man's poison, man.
Different people have different understandings of what ethics are.
And so, where they draw the line.
Exactly. Yeah. And, a clear, and allow me to say this, a clear example is the contrast between Muslims and Christians. Can we say, as a Christian, can you say a Muslim is unethical? No, they have their own standards. Yeah. And as a Christian, you also have your own standards of ethics. And, the same is applicable to companies. And it starts, once again, we go back to the board level. That's where it all starts and ends. The board sets the tone of what ethics is in a company, right? And so the board decides that this type of disclosure is unethical, or this type of collaboration is unethical for us. For instance, I know of a microfinance that is run by a Christian who heavily professes his religion, but he has different clients, and so some of the clients can give him alcohol as end of your gift. Here's your bottle of whiskey and all that. He respectfully declines, right? And so if the CEO or board chair is doing that, then it starts trickling down to the organization as a whole. So the tone of what ethics is set by the board itself, right? Of course, once that is clear and once you have a code of conduct on what ethic means for my company or for my business, you start developing a policy for that. And you start holding trainings for that, internal training, so that at no point does somebody in compliance have a confusion on whether or not this step I'm about to make is unethical or not. And that policy is wide. Of course, it needs to talk about, your transparency and your accountability measures, what needs to be disclosed to who, right? So when it comes to ethics, it's not one shoe fits all, right? But the board is responsible for that. Allow me to also say that there are governing principles on corporate governance. In the country, we have the CMA guidelines, the guidelines that were then changed to CMA Code of Conduct, that then highlights what corporate governance is and mentions on ethics. And we also have internationally recognized regulations such as the OECD principles on what corporate governance is. And so once you digest this as a business, it's up to you to decide, these are my levels and standards of what ethics is. Yeah.
So it all boils down to what the top management, what the board members decide is ethical. I mean,
or not.
What is the borderline between ethical and legal?
I was just coming to that. Of course, you cannot decide an illegality to be ethical to you. You cannot decide that. Keeping shareholders out of the discussion, this is our ethics. yet it's an illegality. The Companies Act requires you to disclose certain things, and the Companies Act also determines on the meetings you have and the AGMs you have and all that. So it's for you to decide, and as I mentioned earlier on, for you to pick the regulations and the policy guidelines, the different policy guidelines, digest that for yourself and develop a clear code of conduct. Of course, there's a blueprint for everyone on what ethics is. For instance, shareholders' rights, that's not negotiable. For instance, declaring a conflict of interest, that's also not negotiable. For instance, fair social and labor rights for your company, that's also not negotiable. There are some blueprints. What I'm saying is that you need to make the shoe fit you, right? It needs to make sense for you. One company's corporate governance you cannot import that to a different company. You operate in different sectors. Yeah, but there's a blueprint for everyone to look at, digest that, internalize it, and develop policies that are unique to you.
That is amazing. I love how you said it, like, let it fit you.
Yeah.
Your company.
Yeah.
Understand your why, understand your product, understand your service, then see what fits them. Because sometimes what has been the biggest issue, even in creating all these policies, you find like a lot of these environmental policies and acts are more, they're borrowed from, the international market.
Yeah.
And then sometimes trying to fit them into the local market becomes such a challenge. But if you understand how your business works, then it becomes easy for you to adapt some of these policies and make them work for you, and just apply the law on them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So talking about that, there's a whole risk risk management in all this is crazy, and I just want to know, like, how do companies, or how does actually, let's talk about startups, because these ones are the ones that die for chamende. Like 3 years, they're like 3 years, 5 years, you're dead. What role does governance play in risk management, especially concerning the environmental and social risks?
Well, risk is one of those aspects of companies that are crucial, but also at the same time tend to be forgotten, right? And that's why you're saying startups just die suddenly. And so the first place to start is doing a clear risk assessment, right? You need to understand what risks your company or your business faces when it comes to, for instance, environmental impact. So you're a startup and you want to open up a manufacturing plant. Of course, right now we have various regulations on carbon footprint, and so you need to look at that specific aspect. So you need to conduct a risk assessment of your company. The moment you're able to do that, then you're able to develop strategies at your corporate level that address your risks, that are specific to your risks, right? And so you develop a policy, and you have a committee, a risk management committee, that internalizes this and pushes it to the specific department, and you have reporting mechanisms on what risks, on how you're implementing your strategy. So first and foremost is conducting a risk assessment on your business, and of course identification of the risk. The second point is still on identification of the risk. The moment you're able to identify your risk, then you're able to mitigate and adapt, right? You're able to mitigate your risks. This is what you need to change. This is what can stay constant, and this is how we can adapt. If regulations change, we are comfortable. You're not being caught unawares, and you're able to continue with your businesses. And rightly put, startups fail because of so many reasons, but of importance is definitely how they're able to identify, mitigate, and adapt to risks that are close to their businesses. Yeah.
Does that mean that when you're talking about the SWOT, SWOT is different from risk assessment?
Oh, absolutely.
So when they're looking at the threats, they're looking at the competitors and everything.
Yeah.
And then they forget there are other external factors that may push their businesses to death.
Exactly.
So how do they, when they're talking about risk assessment, what are some of the steps maybe they can take?
On conducting a risk assessment?
Yeah.
Well, risk assessment is not a blanket that covers everyone. It's specific to you, and I've used the word specific so many times, but it's the truth of the matter.
Yeah, because every business is unique.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every business is unique, and so you have to conduct proper market research. Even as you're starting your business, this is the playing field upon which I want to enter. Look at the businesses around you. What are there? So, for instance, if it's microfinance, right, or a bank you want to start up, there are regulations by the regulator. CBK has said, you need this amount of money. You need to keep this amount of money for you to continue running. These are the regulations before you appoint. All those are regulations. And so when you're conducting a risk assessment, you need to figure out what is the regulator saying, right? Where are you? Where is the playing field with that? And then digest that for yourself and develop policies unique to you as a business. Yeah, and so it's really what affects your business. Yeah.
Wow. So companies need to take their, risk assessment duties very, because we've seen a lot of startups really dying so fast.
Yeah.
So maybe that should be the key area that they focus on before they even look at, scaling up.
Yes, absolutely.
Because you can decide, I want to scale up. You do so well in Kenya, and then you're like, oh yeah, we can do this in Rwanda, and then you go there, boom.
You don't
performing. Understand the market because
Absolutely.
you're not looking at the risks involved in all that.
Absolutely.
And so how can companies, I don't know if you've answered this, but how can companies integrate ESG related risks into their overall risk management frameworks?
So when you think of ESG related risks, you think of environmental risk and social risks, isn't it? And when you think of environmental and social risks, you automatically go to a compliance strategy. So for instance, you're talking about your carbon footprint or fair labor practices, or you want to reduce, you guys are always being taken to court. Somebody just wants a payout, right?
Yeah.
That means that's a risk and an exposure to you. So then what is your compliance framework on the specific environmental and social issues? If it's environmental framework, are you compliant with, for instance, NSC guidelines and policies, CMA guidelines and policies? If it's a social framework, we have a robust Employment Act. We have a robust constitution that guarantees fair social economic rights. Where are you? What are you doing about that? And so when you want to integrate ESG with your risk assessment, then you have to look at the compliance aspect. So all these departments are intertwined. But the beauty of it all, with a strong board structure and a strong board governance and framework, you're able to have specific committees that are dealing with, compliance, that are dealing with risk, that are dealing with environmental compliance and sustainability. And so it all boils down to the specific policies, frameworks that you have for your company, and how you're able to digest that, integrate it so well that the end consumer is able to be aware that, oh, I can see that this company is actually focused on 1, 2, 3, 4 things. Yeah.
And we've actually been seeing a lot of companies, just what are they called? They're releasing the sustainability reports, and I think maybe from August we can now be looking at what it is that they're reporting. And I feel like for even us to understand the whole concept of ESG, we also need to understand what companies are reporting, so that we see how it blends into all that. So when we come back, we're going to be talking about shareholder rights. Shareholder rights. So that is what we're going to be talking about. So thank you so much for being part of this conversation. This is Icon Radio, and I thank you, Njoki, for coming. Yani, this conversation is so timely because we have a series of events lined up on ESG. A couple of trainings, couple of workshops that we as Icon and Greenwave are planning to have. And we believe that this is the right time to have this conversation. And I think we just need to help companies understand, just from the basic level all the way culminating into now how to actually now start reporting. First of all, understand your company policies very well and understand how they work, and then now so that you can be compliant, because right now I think it's more of a compliance issue. As opposed to being a trend. It's not a trend.
No, it's most definitely not a trend right now. We can see various regulations. The president just assented to the carbon regulations of 2024 that gave effect to the Climate Change Act. And so slowly we are seeing at the legislative space we're seeing a growth and an influx in that. And so, as a business, as a company, you have to be proactive. You can't wait and sit pretty waiting for, oh, when it comes, it comes. If it's information that's out there, but as you rightly put it, we are organizing workshops, seminars, trainings to demystify what this ESG thing is. And I'd like to tell listeners, it's not as complicated as it is.
It actually does sound so complicated.
Yeah.
Like, what is this big? Is it the new thing in town? Like, is it gonna fade? Yet there are rules. There are what are they called? There are acts. There are policies that are put in place for you to be compliant with.
Yeah.
So I think for us, we just need to now train people and tell them, "Hey, it's cutting me out for you, man. If we don't comply."
Most definitely.
Yeah, so thank you so much for being part of this conversation. We're going to take a short break. And like I said, after the short break, we're going to be talking about the shareholder, the whole aspect of shareholding in governance.
Yes.
So remember to chat us up on Instagram, that is Icon Radio KE, or on Facebook. Or remember, you can send us a short WhatsApp message. Why do I keep saying a short WhatsApp message on +254 7833 and +254 788 380030. Let me repeat that again because I just jumbled up that. +254 788 380030. This is Icon Radio, and this is Sustainability Connect every Wednesday from 10 to 12.
Don't know where I've been, but I think I've been a walking.
Out in the Woods by Leon Russell, right here on Icon Radio, your number one entertainment plug happening here this one wonderful Wednesday after the maandamano. I love how we're talking about governance when we're still very, like, you walk in Nairobi City and the amount of tear gas. You weren't even in the maandamano, but you're sneezing and sneezing and sneezing. And I love how you put it that it all starts from the boot level.
Yeah.
And, if you can look at what the president did, and he fired the whole cabinet, and just that left him without, he didn't leave him without advisory. But what are your thoughts on that, actually? Because now we are talking about governance. We can have it from, you can also, what are they called? Uphold your Fourth and Fifth Amendment.
Yeah. Absolutely not. I mean, I'm an activist by birth. And so, I mean, let me say first and foremost, I'm not a Gen Z, but I absolutely applaud Gen Zs. These guys are, wow, what a revolution. The revolution is so strong, there was a tremor yesterday in the evening. It's literally an earth-shaking revolution.
So many ways of looking at it, but hey.
But let me say that they have it right. They absolutely have gotten it right, because they are pushing for, they are pushing for...
Funny how you that had that moment after talking about the tear gas.
And I sneezed immediately.
Yeah.
I've just imagined it. And when I went on 25th, it was really hectic. I think I still have remnants. And so they have it right. They have transparency and accountability right. And I want to say that they need to continue stepping on the neck. What Silege said, it's absolutely excellent. And we can see how technology is coming into play with this. Gen Zs are saying we are leaderless, we are tribeless. And the truth of the matter is that, everything is being organized on the Twitter spaces. And so my thoughts on this is that, as difficult as it is right now, the ship is sailing. It might be rudderless, but the future is definitely bright. This is a group of citizens who are taught fair social and economic justice through all the set books they've read in high school. They've gone to campus. They have 2 degrees. They have master's. But what are you telling them? That we are getting you jobs in Saudi Arabia? Come on, I myself, I'm a millennial, but I don't want to leave the country like my relatives and start afresh elsewhere. No, we can do it here in the country, but transparency and accountability have to be at the top level of what we're discussing. And so the president sacked the CSs. It was a good move because that's what the country demanded. I'm yet to see, I'm a millennial, I work with papers. I'm yet to see a Gazette notice that is effecting the sacking of the CSs. But hopefully we'll have a new team that is tribeless and leaderless.
I'm actually of a different school of thought.
Okay.
I'm a millennial, and I feel like the first 2 mandamanos got it. They had a reason, and they understood why. They understood their why. But the last 2, I think there was a shift where it now moved away from looking at policies, looking at the finance bill, looking at the leadership. It now moved into something more of an I don't know what it moved to, but the last 2 mandamanos have not been what we expected them to be. Like yesterday, why? Well, even you as an individual, when something happens, I feel like you need to be given some leeway time to implement, to do what you need to do. But if you're pushed to the throat, there's a way you
only
react.
so much you can do.
Yeah, there's only so much you can. So is it okay? Like you just take the break on the mandamano, because what they're doing now is literally just destroying property.
I mean, as I told you, I'm an activist by birth.
Yeah.
And so I'm on the other end of what you're saying.
Yeah.
My point is that with a revolution it doesn't happen on one day. It doesn't
Yeah.
happen, it's not a one take, right? And the government needs to be open to the scrutiny that is happening. The scrutiny is live and it's a real time. They need to accept that their laundry is out. We can see all the spots on everything. And this is because the country is dealing with a lot that is educated, that has access to technology. We can see AI is being developed on the go. I was so shocked. On the go. If you don't understand the finance bill, here is something to help you understand that. There are Twitter spaces where people are dissecting these various bills. And if the agitation stops, we risk going back to what we had, to what we have been experiencing. And so, and the restlessness can also be accounted to, Wanjira. And it's news, it's not propaganda. Guys are being abducted, guys are being killed. And so to ask people to be patient while all these things are also happening is demanding too much. If really and truly we want to steer this country in the right direction, can leaders now understand? Because I think that's the problem. They get to completely understand what the Gen Zs are saying. The president sacked the CSs, but yesterday or the other day I saw the governor Nyeri demanding 7 CSs coming from the Mount Kenya region. And so you can see there's a laguna in getting it right yet. And the Gen Zs are saying, hey, we don't even need you to appoint us. We need you to appoint competent people who have expertise and who can clean up the messes that have been happening, right? And so it's exhausting, but it's a journey. We're on a journey. It's not a sprint. Okay, the bill was rejected. The CSS was sacked. They have to continue demanding for more. They have to. There's nothing else you can tell them right now. That's going to be like, okay, fine, yeah, cool. We're on the same. No. Everything needs to be put on the table. I heard somebody say we are formatting the country. I said, Viva. I love that.
Anyway, moving along, because that is a conversation that is just never gonna die.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's a revolution. It didn't take like one day and then that's it, that we are done. Like we're not gonna talk about it anymore. Like this is a conversation that has to continue happening so that there's actual change. And I love how the Gen Zs are just out there and just putting themselves out for, like honestly, if I was asked, I know this is something that is not of popular opinion, but they're taking huge risks that I don't know if I would personally.
Yeah. The risk is extremely huge. I went out on the 25th and I can tell you the fear is gone.
Yeah.
I could not believe my eyes. Guys were being shot. They're going to pick them up, take them somewhere, sing the national anthem, and then they continue going. It was wow. It was
That is wild.
It was an experience that I don't think I'll ever forget. And of course, the families who've lost their kids, Rex and the team, they died for a noble cause. And that's why we have to keep going.
All right. Thank you so much. Those are the opinions of Njoki, and I love that she's an advocate of the High Court. So whatever she says. Moving on, let's talk about shareholder rights and compliance. I'm still thinking about compliance. How can companies, ensure that shareholder rights are protected and their voices are heard when you're talking about governance?
Okay. So shareholders are one of the most important.
Just come closer to the mic.
Shareholders are one of the most important stakeholders in companies because then the issue of dividends comes in, right? And their rights need to be, as you rightly put, they need to be protected, ensured, and upheld. So statutorily, companies are required to hold AGMs. And so at the forefront, you must hold these AGMs. And in these AGMs, you need to be open, transparent, and accountable. Your communication lines need to be extremely accessible such that whatever questions they have are being answered openly, right? So over and above holding AGMs, what is it you're discussing at the AGMs? You're not there to tick a box. You need to be
to give your members umbrellas.
Exactly, or coffee mugs.
I know,
right? Have you issued your financials for shareholders to interrogate them? If a board member is stepping down, what are the voting rights? That takes me to another thing: shareholder voting rights. How are the policies for that looking like? If it's voting by proxy, are they so tight that that vote will not be infiltrated? It will actually count. So of importance is, open communication lines, transparency and accountability to shareholders themselves. Because there's a tendency to think that shareholders are powerless and that they'll adhere to everything or anything the board says. But legally, there's an action called a derivative suit. A derivative suit is a suit that is, brought to court specifically by shareholders only. And so the moment, the board realizes that, then they need to be at the forefront in ensuring shareholders are happy. Or even if they're not happy, they understand the decisions the board is making.
When you're talking about the shareholders, maybe you can break it down and just help us understand who shareholders are within their company environment.
Okay. So we have Icon Radio, a registered company. And then we have Icon Radio Management. Management is not necessarily shareholders. Shareholders are the group of people or persons behind the company. They have rights to the shares of the company. Okay? So when
they have bought shares.
They have bought shares.
Yeah. So it's not every employee or...
No. Well, of course, there's employee shareholding agreements, but sorry, getting a bit technical. They've bought shares into the company. Or even if they've not bought shares, there are people who've registered this company. Icon cannot exist with 1, 2, 3, 4. And with the original people who birthed Icon Radio. And so after that, then, you're trying to raise capital, you split your shares and you sell the shares. If you're a listed company, you're listed and the public buys some shares. And so shareholding is different from board management, executive management, employee, and the different stakeholders. So
that is very important. Just repeat that again.
Shareholding is different from the board management, the executive management, and the employees. Of course, as you progress with the discussion, there are options, and this I normally see in startups whereby employees are allowed to buy shares and to become shareholders.
Which I think is a new trend that is happening. I don't know if it's a trend or it's
Well, it's not.
it's a way of, retaining
Yeah,
staff.
it has been there. I know a couple of companies who have done it, but because of confidentiality agreements and NDAs, I can't disclose. But there are companies who actively do that, and it just depends on how loyal and how much you believe in the success of this company as an employee. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not a way of coercing you. Okay, it's
Because
I
you
feel it's
can-
like a more of a win-win situation.
it really is.
Yeah?
Yeah. it
Because
really is.
if I bought a share in, let's say, Icon Radio, then I feel like whatever it is that I'm doing, I would double it so that it improves my.
Yeah.
So I feel it's more of a win-win situation. So what are some of the challenges that companies face when they're trying to implement the whole shareholder
Balancing.
balance?
the
Yeah.
interests. Okay. Well, of course, there's the conflicting interests. Shareholders are more keen on short-term versus long-term goals. So there's the issue of short-term versus long-term goals.
Yeah.
Shareholders, are keen on where's my payout, where are my dividends. But the board might be focused on long-term goals. So, balancing those two interests is really important. And as you balance those interests, of course, we have diverse stakeholder interests. There are shareholders they might want to venture, as we had earlier on the discussion. You have shareholders who are like, my other company in Rwanda is doing really well. You guys, you need to consider going that, and they're pushing this agenda. But at the board level, understanding the intricacies of the business, it's you're saying it's not, the time is not now.
Yeah.
The time is not now. Let's first hold off. So balancing those interests, resource allocation is also another challenge. Deciding how to allocate resource can anywhere there's resource allocation, there has to be some sort of tension.
Everywhere, even in your own house, you're like, hii pesa ni ya unga na hii ni ya mkate. Like, why don't you
Exactly.
increase for bread and reduce for ugali?
Exactly. So resource allocation is also another problem, and that marries so well with a company that is keen on sustainability measures. And so they're saying we need our employees to attend this number of trainings so that they understand sustainability and they start driving us towards that end. Sustainability compliance is also expensive. And so you can see, and they would wonder, what is the sustainability thing? SDGs, what are you guys talking about?
SD who's?
Why? Why are we
Yeah.
focused on SDGs?
Yeah.
And so that issue of resource allocation and the cost of compliance in some aspects of the businesses that companies are keen on, shareholders might not understand. Yeah, so at the top of my head, those are some of the challenges that shareholders experience.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So balancing this has to stem out from communicating.
Yeah, open lines and channels of communication.
Yeah, because I feel that is where conflict arises from if the board management does not communicate to the shareholders.
Yes.
So if they're not in line with each other, then the shareholders are like you said, short-term goals, which is their payouts and the dividends.
Yeah.
And yet the management is like, the board members are like, but we don't have enough money for, then communicate that in a proper manner,
Absolutely.
respectful manner.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of companies that have shut down, especially financial institutions, like I remember there was it Kakuyo, where it's more, I don't even understand why it got to a level where a lot of investors got duped, because the governance of this organization it was focused on real estate and buying and selling land, and a lot of people got duped. So they were asking for refunds, some were asking for just communicating, just tell us what's happening.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't even need your money back. What you're asking is just clear communication.
Yeah.
Is it really gonna pan out
Yeah.
as a proper investment or not?
Yeah.
Then we can take an action from there. So I think how the board communicates to stakeholders, not just shareholders, but all the stakeholders, is really, really important. And I like how you put it, that everyone has their own goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own goal, and also, I've just remembered when you're talking about the communication, is that over and above, the communication stems from something. And the stemming is at what engagement levels do you have with your stakeholders? Are you just engaging them during your AGMs? How are there any policies and procedures and mechanisms to ensure that you have active, updated stakeholder engagements, so that some of their suggestions can actually be considered, and if they're being rejected from a point of authority and research. It's just not, we can't do that. So stakeholder engagement then gives birth to stakeholder communication. Yeah, so it's necessary and important to keep having constant discussions with your stakeholders. Yeah.
That just stems out from best practices, like
Yeah.
what steps can a company take to improve its governance structure and policies, even as they're communicating to their stakeholders?
The different shareholders,
Yeah,
the stakeholders, and
Yeah.
stakeholders are
Shareholders,
shareholders,
yeah.
and vice versa. So, of course, you need. Once again, it stems from the board. What is your board composition? You're starting up and you want to have a solid, good governance structure, right? Board composition. How does your board composition look like? Even if you're two people, you say, okay, fine, we have this expertise and this expertise. Start from there. Start from somewhere. Develop a code of conduct, even between the two of you, the three of you. Develop a code of conduct that is ethical, and most importantly, has considered the different regulations and policies in the country. So anybody coming in as a shareholder, or as a CEO, or in whatever capacity the stakeholder is coming in, they understand that this is how business is being done here. So have a solid code of conduct, have a good governance framework. So the governance framework and the board charters are what all this is built on. The board charter indicates the board is comprised of these people. This is their tenure. This is the age limit of the board. These are the different committees in the board. So we have a risk in all these committees. These committees can only be filled by people of 1, 2, 3, 4 skills. And this is how they this is how they receive reports, and this is how we have mechanisms to check in on this report. Of course, it's also important to have how do you measure, right? How do you measure your performances? How do you report on these performances? So you need to have robust reporting mechanisms as a board. So it's basically good in-house behavior. In-house behavior for board members and the board at large, because that's the backdrop upon which all stakeholders are surviving or dying.
But then if you don't set the benchmark,
Yeah.
then every Tom, Dick, and Harry can just come and say, this is what we want to do, and then you just adapt it.
Exactly.
And you just need to have a clear cut. when we started out in journalism, we used to be told when you're doing stories, you needed to keep it short and simple. Like you're precise. This is what you guys need to do. This is how you do it. This is why you're doing it.
Yes.
So I love that. I really love that.
Yes.
So are there particular steps? Are there other steps that we need to, to help these companies? Because we're looking at how do we help startups and SMEs to just develop good governance?
There's also, we cannot forget the other aspects away from the company. You're not an island.
Yeah.
Much as you need to internalize and develop your own governance frameworks and policies. We cannot underpin the importance of networking and engaging your peers and trying to find out, guys, this is where I'm struggling in my board.
Yeah.
How did you go about it? So actively going out there and meeting different, competitors and having open conversations about what structures and board governance and board policies. So I'd say, networking is really, really key, especially for startups and SMEs as they're trying to figure out their internal processes. Of course, you have to conduct training and awareness programs for now your stakeholders being, your employees. If you're having a challenge in implementing certain policies and frameworks in the company, conduct regular trainings for your people to understand this is why this is important. This is why we need to report on sustainability. This is why regular compliance is aware. And so individually and from a department perspective, they're able to understand, should we not do this, then we risk exposure to the X amount or in penalties. So just them being aware through regular trainings. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about some of the challenges and some of the solutions that, when companies are trying to adapt into governance, need to look out for and how to, have proper-based solutions in tackling that up. Because we understand that, not even we understand, what we know is governance is really, really important. It plays a huge role when it's in promoting transparency.
Yeah.
And transparency has been the biggest issue and has been the biggest key in seeing a lot of companies falling.
Yeah.
So we need to understand what some of these challenges are.
Yeah.
So when you come back, we're going to be tackling that. So thank you so much for keeping it right here on Icon Radio. This is Sustainability Connect, and we're loving the conversations. Today we are demystifying the G, and we are trying to understand, why is the G so important? And why is it crucial for companies to get the G correct? Because we're not just talking about the board management, we're also talking, even if it's sole proprietorship or when you're partnerships, whatever it is that you're doing for your business, it is really important that you have frameworks that are very clear, that will help you in terms of accountability and transparency, and also help you in building trust and reputation, which is key for every business. So we are hoping that after these conversations, whether you're a startup, you're an SME, you're an MSME, we want to see what your long-term sustainability plan is and how strategic your vision is for your business, so that you may avoid some of the problems that companies are facing. Also remember, governance is also a key component of investor relations. They look at how you've structured your board. Yeah, they look at who is in your board.
Absolutely.
They look at why are they in your board? Is it your father? Is it your mother?
Absolutely.
What are they bringing to the table? Actually, those are the people who are asking, what are you putting on the table?
Absolutely.
So it is really, really important that we help you understand that the G aspect in ESG is very, very crucial, and it has a lot of components to it. So when we come back, let's have this conversation. And thank you, Njoki, for being our perfect expert in this area, because you're a lawyer, you're an activist, you're an ESG consultant, you're an ESG trainer, so you understand blending it in an all-rounded spectrum of it. Yeah. So thank you so much. Remember, this is Icon Radio, your number one entertainment plug, and this is Sustainability Connect, and we are back. I'm super excited about that. So remember, you can chat us up on all our social media platforms. That is Icon Radio KU on Instagram and on Facebook, as well as you can send us. You can send us a short SMS or a short WhatsApp message on our WhatsApp platform. That is +254 788 380030. So continue sending in your questions. I'll read them to Njoki just about when we're about to culminate the show. And remember, you are streaming us live on www.iconradio.co.ke. And remember, we are also live on Icon Radio on YouTube. So thank you so much. See you after the short break.
Song tonight. Well, we're all in the mood for a melody, and you've got us feeling alright. It's a pretty good crowd for a Saturday, and the manager gives me a smile, 'cause he knows that it's me they've been coming to see, to forget about life for a while. And the piano, it sounds like a carnival, and the microphone smells like a beer, and they sit at the bar and put bread in my jar and say, man, what are you doing here? Oh, la la la, di-di-da. La la, di-di-da, da-da. Sing us a song, you're a piano man. Sing us a song tonight. Well, we're all in the mood for a melody, and you've got us feeling alright.
That is Billy Joel, the piano man, happening here on Icon Radio. And this is Wednesday, and you know, every Wednesday from 10 to 12, we do Sustainability Connect. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation. Thank you so much for joining us right back after, you know, when the country has been facing a lot of challenges. And we are super glad that today's conversation is just, you know, helping us understand why it is important for ESG to take a prominence in your company strategy.
Yes.
Because we feel that there's a vibe, there's a whole quote trend that companies don't understand, and that's the ESG. And yet, these are policies and laws that are put in place that companies need to comply with.
Yeah.
And we feel that this is the right time for us to start training and just teaching our audience, and especially startups, SMEs, even individuals who just are interested in this particular space of ESG, on what ESG is all about and why we are demystifying. Previously, we were decoding the S with Julie, who's also a board member of Greenwave. And initially, we started with Greenwave, just telling us who is ESG. So thank you so much, Njoki, for being part of this conversation today. And right before the break, we were talking about you know, some of the challenges that these companies face in you know, adapting the G. So what are some of the challenges, in your opinion, that are faced by companies, or what are just give us some challenges that you feel that companies need to be looking out for, and when especially they're trying to implement strong governance practices.
Well, allow me to get political once again because
Politically correct.
yeah, at the top of my mind, of course, you have cultural challenges because a company. So, for instance, in the country right now, we can see a shift in the culture. The culture is demanding transparency and accountability, but what was there is not that. So, before these two thoughts are merged, there has to be some back and forth. And so, also for companies, they can experience some cultural resistance, especially if what they're trying to implement is done haphazardly and is perceived to be seen as bureaucratic, or it's just expecting too much from the people. So cultural resistance. But with cultural resistance, then what is the solution? The solution is training and building up skills on what the company is trying to do. So if your problem is cultural resistance, but you're aware that the change in culture is necessary for the company, then you need to train your people on the governance mechanisms and frameworks that you're trying to implement. Of course, we have balancing diverse interests. We just talked about that with the shareholders. And, all these interests are applicable to the company. The bigger picture is the company. But how do you effectively balance that? How can you ensure that everyone's interest is being upheld and is being rightly managed and considered? So balancing those interests can be difficult, but then with that, what is the solution? The solution then would be active stakeholder engagement, so that you understand their interests, and they also and the board is also able to understand them, and they also understand the board. They understand where the board is coming with this specific governance framework and or policies that they're trying to implement. That takes me to once again resource constraints. What resources are available to you, and are these resources enough to back up some of these frameworks and policies that you that as the board you want to implement? So lastly, there's lack of expertise. Actually, there's lack of expertise in developing and implementing some of these governance frameworks. And so with the lack of expertise, what do you need to do? You need to train and also allocate resources. Yeah.
I love that, because a while back, there was an organization, the founder was actually, the company is top tier, not top tier, but it's way up there. It's now almost heading into a listed company.
Okay.
But you find that the founder, right before, they never retire.
Yeah.
But he was not liable to insurance.
Oh.
Yeah. So he would pay for insurance out of pocket.
Interesting.
Yeah. So up until one of the accounting clerks realized and were like, why do we pay for your insurance from out of pocket? Yet as a founder, it needs to be a policy that these are some of the benefits that you get.
Yeah.
And it was taken to the board, and it was actually decided it shouldn't be a request, it was a mandate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love how you say that, because you're the one who sets the pace.
Yeah.
If it was not set earlier, then nobody felt the need for that.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
So I think that is really important for the management to just, for the board management, whatever it is that your company calls them, to be able to understand the importance of having proper governance structure and how proper policies
To implement them. Yeah.
can affect the way a business operates.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that just takes me to the CMA guidelines and code of conduct of 2016. And actually, one of the things that the code of conduct outlines is executive pay provisions. And so it's necessary for the board itself to set out clear remuneration, fair remuneration for board members, such that you don't have an instance of what you're talking about. I also know of a company whereby I don't know if it's the CFO or CEO, one of those positions, management positions, was setting aside funds just for the sake of the company, right? He's not stealing, but the moment a company hits a crunch, money comes out of nowhere, and somebody doesn't know. And so only upon investigations, it's actually quite interesting, only upon investigations they found out, Allah, this guy has been holding billions, but he's not squandering them. He's just he made a family decision for the company.
Like, you don't know how to use money.
Yeah. He was saving.
I will save it for you.
He was saving
that
money.
draws the line between ethics and legal.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
So how did that end up?
Well, I
hope
think
he was not fired.
I don't know, but I think he was dismissed. But I mean, it brings us to the first discussion, ethics and illegality. That was an illegality. You should not set aside funds somewhere for the company, and the moment salaries need to be paid, some money
pops in from nowhere.
and he's the CFO. So nobody's even questioning. Funds are coming out of somewhere, and so the executive director started tracking the funds that led to this account, and the CFO was the only one who had access to that account.
Wow.
And so
weren't they happy that when
it was a happy surprise. It was a happy surprise, I guess. Yeah, but
did they ever reinstate him back?
I don't know. I didn't follow up. on that conversation because
that is good governance. That is like, I don't even know.
It's strange governance.
It is strange because first of all, had he squandered the money, then we would have said that it was properly legal. But now he didn't squander the money. He just set it aside. It's like he was just setting up insurance for the company. In case. So wow.
Yeah, it's a legal quagmire. Let me say that. Yeah, there are different ways to look at it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Wow. I mean, we need such people because we've seen a lot of founders, and and I think that is where the issue is at. You see, when you get funding for your startup, you get 200 million. You've gone for seed funding. You've gone for round 1, round 2, and then you have all this money, and you're just squandering it.
Oh yeah. It's
and
a
then
challenge.
one person is like, whatever it is that you guys are doing, and then you find like you start failing to pay employees salaries because you don't have the money, yet you got like funding for like 3 years or 5 years. And this is a person who's made a personal decision to just, let me save these guys from this quagmire. So, those are the people we need.
Interesting.
I think that, we should applaud that person. We should call him for tips to advise fellow comrades in that space.
Yeah.
But anyway, how can companies address issues like corruption and lack of accountability?
Oh man.
There is no case and point of Kenya at the moment. There's no example.
There's no example.
Well,
first and foremost, I think your whistleblowing mechanisms have to be nice and strong. You might have somebody who's
witness protection.
Exactly. You might have somebody who's aware or even suspect something, but they don't know how to go about it, right? And so you need to have clear whistleblowing policies that protect and ensure and guarantee the whistleblower that, his position is still secured and nothing will affect, the outcomes of whatever investigations will not affect their jobs. Of course, you need to have clear, transparent, and accountability measures. If you're doing financial disclosures, you need to be as transparent as possible. You need to have open mechanisms to be questioned and interrogated on these accounts, right? And you need to have a code of conduct that starts from the top. The ethical standards your company is only as ethical as you, the founder, are. If you're a shifty, sketchy character, your company is still going to be the same way, You cannot hang out with thieves and not expect to be one. So it needs to start from you as the founder, you as the board chair. How are you conducting the meetings of the board? Do you have a clear transaction that indicates to a conflict of interest and you're not divulging that? And so small things, whether good or bad, add up to something. Small things of bad ethics will add up to corruption and lack of accountability. And the inverse is true. Yeah.
Just be, how do you say it? Be the eyes and the ears of your company first before you incorporate others.
Yes.
And train them to be what you want them to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
So, as we wind up, what are some of the future trends you see emerging in corporate governance?
Wow, definitely technology. You can see technology coming up nice and steady and easy. And with technology, then you have access to information, right? And so you have AI taking the center stage in how, board meetings are even done. We saw during COVID, boards are not able to meet, but they're able to meet virtually. And so technology is definitely taking the center stage when it comes to good governance. We can also see reporting on ESG of importance. Most importantly is, I can see committees specific to ESG reports and, having a designated board committee that ensures, board's ESG strategies are well adapted, reporting on challenges, ensuring provisions on resources, and, just having clear ESG policies for the companies. Yeah.
So technology is a key.
Definitely.
Is a major trend that, not just in ESG, but in every space that we're in. Is there any other trend that you foresee in the future?
Governance specific, right? Well, definitely borrowing from the Gen Zs, we have stakeholder-centric governance. Governance that is centered. Anguka nayo kabisa. Governance that is centered around the stakeholders and not the board management only. So open channels of communications, open engagements with different stakeholders, with consumers, with shareholders, with regulators. So governance that is centered around stakeholders is also key. Of course, and this marries to what I had said earlier about the ESG reporting. carbon footprint, governance that is centered around carbon footprint. We are definitely going to see companies focused on reducing their carbon footprints, reporting on scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions, and just being open about the environmental impact. Yeah.
I love that the whole of this conversation you've been touching a bit about carbon footprint, and maybe you can just briefly just break it down so that we can see how it marries into governance.
Well, carbon footprint is definitely environmental impact, right? And so with governance, I'd like to see a company with an environment, a sustainability governance mechanism. And based on that framework, then the aspect of carbon and the carbon footprint is digested all through the organogram of the company or to the end, which is the consumer or the product or service you're offering. And so the carbon footprint and how it appears in reports of the company will be based on the sustainability report or policy. So do you want to reduce your scope 1 emissions? Do you want to reduce your scope 2 or your scope 3 emissions? That can only be discussed once it's placed on a governance or a sustainability policy. Yes.
Oh, wow. That is so clear.
Yeah.
I hope our listeners have really understood it. Next time we'll be talking about carbon footprints and how it applies into ESG.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be winding up and do a short recap of what we've been discussing, and then from there we can see some of the questions that have been sent in.
Okay.
All right. So thank you so much. This is Sustainability Connect on Icon Radio, #1 entertainment plug. And remember, every Wednesday from 10 to 12, we do this and we help you. Remember, we always say Sustainability Connect is not an entertainment show. We are an educative show. We are here to help you understand the whole concept of what is ESG. We're going to be talking about carbon credits, carbon emissions, carbon footprints. This is a space that we are all going to be talking about sustainability in an all-rounded manner. So thank you so much for being part of this conversation. And remember, we are live on www.iconradio.co.ke. See you shortly.
Hi, this is Eric Wanaina. Keep it locked here on Icon Radio, your #1 entertainment plug.
Everything turn. There is a season, turn. At their time to every purpose under heaven.
by the birds. Turn happening here on Icon Radio, your number one entertainment plug. And we are winding up today. Sustainability Connect is coming to an end in a few minutes. And right before we wind up, we just want to say thank you to Greenwave, who've been such a pillar for this show, because they've been with us since the inception. They've just been helping us to understand what ESG is and helping us and the audience understand why it is important for us to, adapt ESG principles into our businesses. And it is not a trend, like Njoki says. It is a what would you call it?
It's let me say it's the next phase of business.
It's the next phase of business.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. It's the next phase of business. And you must comply to the rules and the regulations set by the country and also international standards.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Njoki, for having this conversation with us. And as you wind up, what advice would you give to small and medium-sized enterprises that are looking to improve, their governance practices?
Be proactive.
Mm-hmm.
Be proactive. Find out what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Find out the best practices of governance.
Mm-hmm.
Research on the companies that are doing really well. And of course, we have the big boys of Safaricom, KCB, ABSA. Find out what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I can give them free advice right now and tell them that all the companies right now that are considered to have strong and robust governance policies and frameworks all follow the CMA Code of Governance of 2016. So interact with that, find out what it says about your stakeholders, about your directors, about your shareholders, about remuneration and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Be proactive in going out there and finding out best practices.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, leverage on technology. Right now, we're in 2024. The governance mechanisms and structures are not the same as 2004.
Mm-hmm.
So leverage on technology. Can your board charters be compressed and understood easily with the use of technology and artificial intelligence? So leverage on technology. It's available for you. Figure out what best suits you. Yeah.
All right. And how can consumers and investors identify and support companies with strong governance practices?
Well, for investors is to interact. They need to interact with the businesses and have open communication. And so, for instance, if you want to invest in Icon and they have the AGM, go see how they're responding to shareholders. Mm-hmm. What are their compliance mechanisms? Mm-hmm. Have active participation with your possible new businesses. Mm-hmm. So actually, just be out there and interrogate it. Mm-hmm. And also, don't just take paper value information. Have meetings with different stakeholders that are attached to these businesses. Same thing as consumers, what is it in for you as a consumer? Why do you want to know the governance structures of the companies? And so the moment you're able to figure that out, then you're able to be proactive. And, currently in the country, we have companies are doing pretty well. And most websites, I don't know if it was Kengen or KPLCs, all their board information is out there. They have their board charter out there. They have their various policies updated and available for you to scrutinize and have conversations with. Once again, technology is key. We saw Safaricom being put on the limelight the other day, and the CEO coming out clearly to explain, whether really and truly the cables were not working and how fast they were fixed. How fast they were fixed. And it's interesting because technology is there. We saw Gen Z's tweeting Elon Musk and him responding.
I know.
And so as businesses leverage on that technology, on the information, have open, genuine conversations. Don't be scared of that. Embrace it, because the Gen Z's and the Generation Alpha that are coming up, they might even be harder than the Gen Z's.
Yeah.
You need to understand that this is the market. This will be your employees. These are the next, this is the next generation. This is the next market.
Yeah.
So
and
embrace
speaking
it.
of, the Gen Zs have really moved it up into the gig economy,
Yeah.
which is now an issue. You find like a lot of companies are restructuring, and that also poses a challenge to some of these companies because their policies and their governance was based on in-house employees. Now there's a remote option.
Yeah.
So how fast, and what advice would you give these companies to, engage for such terms?
I mean, once again, open conversations. You have so many tools to engage these guys. Have open conversations with them. You're employing somebody remotely and you're trusting them to deliver.
Yeah.
What if they don't?
Actually,
and
so a
already-
company that is, doing away with, degree requirements,
Yeah.
they're like, are you competent enough? Do you have this right skill set for you to, deliver on what you're supposed to deliver? It doesn't matter whether you have the degree or not.
Absolutely. And I know so many people who are working for different tech companies with skills, expertise, and experience. That's it. And diplomas.
Yeah.
That's it. And these are competent people, experienced people who are ready to put in the effort, right? And so have open conversations with these guys. Embrace the fact that it's not business as usual. Resist the cultural bureaucracy that wants to plague you, and just go out there. And I don't mean to sound so censorious, but it's the reality on the ground. It's the reality on the ground. Yeah.
All right. So, what is the one key takeaway that you'd like our listeners to just, to remember about governance in ESG?
About governance is ethical behavior. Let me just say that. It's ethical behavior. And once you embrace it, you as an individual, then your business and your stakeholder engagement and your finances and your business holistically starts performing well. Research has actually indicated that companies with good, solid governance frameworks and structures perform way better than companies with poor governance structures. So embrace good governance, embrace technology to assist you in good governance, and finally focus on implementing these strategies. Everything can be good on paper, but without proper implementation, then you're shooting yourself in the foot. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Njoki. This has been such an instrumental conversation. And remember, we've been talking about the G aspect in ESG. So that is environment, social, and governance. And remember, good governance is the backbone of a successful and sustainable company. And it ensures that a company operates ethically, transparently and efficiently. Ultimately, it helps drive, your long-term success. So thank you so much for being part of this conversation. This has been Sustainability Connect on Icon Radio, your number one entertainment plug. And this has been Sustainability Connect. Up until next time, I'm your host, Wanjira Maganjo. Thank you, God bless you, and see you then.
Life I've always wanted, I guess I'll never have. I'll be working for somebody else until I'm in my grave. I'll be dreaming of a life of ease and mountains, oh, mountains of thanks. Have a big expensive car, drag my furs on the ground. Have a maid I can tell to bring me anything. Everyone will look at me with envy and with greed. Now revel in their attention and mountains, oh mountains of thanks. Sweet lazy life, champagne and caviar. Hope you come and find me, 'cause you know who we are. Those who deserve the best in life know what our money's worth. Those who sow misfortune is having mountains of nothing at birth. Oh, they tell me still time to save my soul. They tell me renounce all those material things you gain by exploiting other human beings. Consume more than you need. This is a dream to make you pauper or make you queen.